Presented by Botano, it's Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill back together for a very, very special interview today. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page at the Leafs Nation 401. It's always great when we have a reunion on this podcast, and Rosie, we have that today again, my friend.
CLARKE MACARTHUR, no introduction. He gets more famous as he gets deeper into retirement somehow. I don't know how this happens, but how are you,
buddy? Thanks for having me on, boys. Good to see you again, Rosie.
You too, man. What's going on lately? You got some kids. You're splitting some time between Florida and Rochester, just playing with the great one and MJ, and just a life of leisure, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's been good. Obviously, the quick retirement happened for me. I wasn't really planning on that, so we moved to Florida basically just for taxes. The first, so I think I had 2 or 3 years left or whatever, and ended up getting hooked up. I had a couple friends that were at Medalist there, a golf course in Hope Sound. So that's kind of how we picked that area. And then, one thing led to the next, and it's been an interesting 5 years for sure. Or 6 now? Are we on 6? Might be on 6.
6, yeah.
6.
How's the golf game? You keep it tight, I imagine, around that scratch level?
I was pretty good for probably the first 4 or 5 years. Last year I got back working with real estate and doing like development stuff, and so that kind of took some of my time, but I think I'm like a 1.8 or something now, or good enough to go nowhere.
Yeah, it goes quick when you're not practicing, eh?
Yeah, it does.
So we had the great one on a couple weeks ago, Clark, and he name dropped you. How do you go from hanging out with Jay Rosehill to hanging out with Wayne Gretzky? That's my question.
Just lucky, right? So basically, I was playing with Jordan for like the last 4 years. We've been playing, 4 days a week, and so then he started this golf course, the Grove 23. And then, so obviously I left Medalist and joined the Grove. And I think it was I want to say it was the first year we were there. The second year when I came back in like September, MJ told me that Wayne joined, and I was like, oh God, I grew up in Lloyd, like got his posters all over your walls, him, Messier, all those guys. And I think within a couple days, Wayne texted me like this number, hey, it's Wayne Gretzky. Do you want to play tomorrow? And I'm thinking this is like the Happy Gilmore, like 9 o'clock, and wear something nice, and I thought it was MJ. So I'm like, or one of the guys, I'm like, yeah, okay, F you, and the number calls me right away. So I'm like, okay, I answer. He's like, hey, Clark, it is Wayne. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. Like I was trying, I'm like, these guys prank me all the time, whatever. And so we ended up golfing the next day, and I think that was 2 or 3 years now. I've been with Wayne. I mean, there's no better guy to hang out with. I mean, coffee every day with Gretzky and golf. And I mean, his whole family, everyone, they've been pretty awesome.
Unbelievable. Yeah, we were talking to him. We picked his brain a little bit about getting back into the game and whatnot, and he said that ship has sailed. But now that you've been out for a few years doing your thing, are you pretty content, or do you have any itch to get back into the game in any way, shape, or form?
I did like the player development with Chris Kelly and Donovan. The 1 year I think the second year I was out, and it wasn't that I wanted to do it that badly. I love Dono, and Chris Kelly is one of the, I don't know if you guys know Kells that well. He looks so serious. You don't really know him. Then you meet him. You're like, the guy's the funniest guy you'll ever meet. Like, he's just unbelievable. So for that year, it was like fun. And Ottawa was great. Letting me come back and do that. But I just, I was playing so much golf with these guys. And I don't know. The way it ended, I couldn't really, I never watched games for like the first couple of years either. I was just wanted to just get away from it for a minute. But, now I'm back watching it a lot. I watch it with Wayne all the time. We watch games, and I just kind of listen to what he says about the game. He's got so much knowledge, and I wish he would go do something. If he went and did something, I'd try and follow him around. But
I was going to say, what's his commentary like during a game? I would just be my ears glued to him during a game.
Oh, I know. No, he just thinks of, he was a good hockey player. I wasn't. So he's got a whole different element to the game that, you don't really see. But he knows everyone and talks with everyone all the time. Like these guys are retired. They do such a good service for the game after, like, I don't know. The way he's talks with, he's with Paul Coffey all the time, and Messier talking with all these guys. I think all the old legends, so it's kind of cool.
How you feeling? You just referenced it was really shit how your career ended. You had so much left to give. Like, how you feeling these days?
I feel good. I had to work on my neck a lot for about 2 years. Just like I had no jelly really between like the C2 and C3. So sleep wrong, you got to go get it adjusted. Shank one in the woods. I always use my neck. I got to go. I can't finish the round. So it was always, but it's getting better now. And head wise, I feel I'm all there. My wife would probably say other, but
Yeah, it's a funny thing, man, because like I wonder about how many, shots I took to my head, and I don't have too many
oh,
symptoms. Where then some guy just kind of gets something that looks minor, and he's just fucked for like a long time. Like you must have a different perspective on these shots these kids are taking these days, and what those headshots are like compared to someone else, I imagine.
well, you just said it. Like some guys. Some of the concussions I had, my left eye was blurry. I'm like, can't play. Can't even tie the left shoe, so, and then that went away. But with the brain, it seems like, if we could play, if it was like golf, yeah, I could make a comeback right now, but you're done. You're old, too old. But it takes years, it seems like, to get rid of stuff. But I feel bad for the guys that it really lingers. I feel a lot clearer now, a lot better. So, but like you said, I mean, I got hit a few times. I mean, you did it for a living, fight all that. Like you've taken some huge, and you seem like this show's going pretty good for you. Yeah.
Somebody's carrying somebody, okay, bud. But I apologize if this brings back some shit memories for you. But I remember being heated on the radio and social media about the hit you took from Patrick Seloff in training camp 6 years ago. Reason I bring it up because Rosie and I were debating a similar situation a few weeks ago at Leafs development camp. I don't know if you saw it, but Ronnie Hervinen, who's a Leafs top prospect, was just decked by this kid. And crazy enough, the kid got a contract. I don't know if it was because of that, but he was known for being a heavy hitter. Just curious to get your opinion on, looking back at that. I mean, you just mentioned it took a while for you to watch hockey again, right?
Yeah. So that whole situation was. The only thing I was upset about is I was already out for like a year and a half or 2 years.
Yeah.
And I put a lot of time in. Rosie, if you're not in the lineup or you work, you got to work 10 times harder, it seems like, when you're not playing as much or you're not whatever. So I was disappointed. But for looking at Patrick and what he's doing, we have a new coach. He's in the minors. He's a hard-nosed, good kid. Like, he's trying to make the team. Like, so he comes in. It's not like he hit me dirty. It's not like, and after that happened, Bobby fights him. He does what he had to do there. You do the fight, whatever. And then Chris Neal's on his team, and he was a friend of mine, right? And he's going after him, and they're on the same team, right? So it's like they took him off the ice, and like I came in and talked to the guys, I think the next day or something, just to like kill the, because you're friends with all these guys. Like that Patrick, he doesn't know that. I've been playing with them for a couple of years, and you got it's personal for everyone, but it was never his fault. It was just one of those things that happened. He was a good kid and a hard-nosed player. So
that's always a weird thing, don't you find, when whether it's training camp or exhibition or some prospect summer thing or whatever the stuff is we did coming up, like everyone's going hard because you want to make the team, and some guys, that's their identity, and it's like, can I hit this guy? And then your buddy's coming down the wall that you played with for the last 2 years, and it's like, what the fuck? It's always a weird thing.
The worst.
We've kind of grinded
especially
over that. Yeah.
For a Patrick Seloff, like he's a hard-nosed player. Like if he can't go out and play pond hockey, like I mean he could, but like that's not how he's going to get paid, right? No. So I mean, whatever. I always hated training camp too. I hated it. Like it was always, the black and white. Like you hit someone now, the guy won't go to dinner with you for a week. It's like, come on, just stupid.
Yeah.
But
Shitty. Well, are you following the Leafs at all? You said you took some time away from watch, and do you check in on them and see what they're doing and where they're at right now?
Yeah, I've been watching. In the last, it's disappointing a little bit for the fact that I played there and I get the pressure and it's hard to win the cup. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's the best team. Like you can set it up however you want. You might not win the cup. You get injuries. You get certain things happen. I mean, look at this playoffs with the mismatches. Like.
Crazy.
Carolina's a better matchup for Vegas in the final, I think. But they couldn't get like Florida. Just I mean, every game I watched every game there, and it could have been 4-0 Carolina that series. It could have been. Yeah. Like that's hockey, and
it's funny.
Toronto's a tough place to play, but it's also an unbelievable place to play too. The opportunity to play there. So yeah, I don't know. you know, I don't know what they're going to do there. They got, because the window closes so quick every time with these contracts and the ages of players, and you got to win when you can win.
Yeah, it was an interesting era when you're a Leaf too, right? It was in like the 2010, 2013 type era. Berkey's in the mix. We had Berkey on the show a couple months back. Absolute gem. I worked with him at Sportsnet as well. Like Phaneuf was there, Kessel was there. Like, what was it like to be in that era of like Ron Wilson and Randy Carlyle?
It was, well, the first year I was there with Rosie, we had like 7-8 guys from the minors that like we had, you know, you're playing the NHL and you like, you know, you see, you know, they always put the lineup up there, and like some nights I'm like, oh my God, like we might lose 10-0. And like some games it works out and you end up winning. I mean, I loved it there. You know, we weren't ready to win, obviously. I think the second and third year it got better, and then you know we lose to Boston in that series, you know, and then the good thing that we had going turns into the worst thing in the world, right? Like if you get through that series, it's like, oh, like we don't have to move, we don't have to fire sale everyone. We not, you know, that's how it goes. Like you can't lose that game. I still think like I that Toronto, like I just every time I hear Boston, I'm just like, oh God, just you know.
There's a few things in that era where it was like this inch this way or that way. Things could have been different, but like day late, dollar short doesn't matter. The only thing anyone remembers is the shit. But it seems like that era. I remember when they fired Wilson, I thought they were going to hire Dallas Eakins. Reimer came in, was standing on his head. We went on this tear at the end of the year,
Yeah.
and every other year for like, I don't know, 5-6 years before that, statistically, you do that with those numbers, you're in the playoffs, guaranteed. And everyone else in the division just went on fire for some fucking reason, and we missed the whole shebang. And they hired Carlisle, and it was just like you look back and you're like, what if we did this and that happened? It would just be a whole different story. But that's sports, I guess, eh?
No, it's it's just it's like the littlest thing can just alter the ship, you know. And our ship just went like towards Niagara Falls and like going on.
Shit.
Well, they didn't utilize me properly. They didn't utilize my skill set properly, and it was their
So yeah,
downfall.
it's half of it's on them.
Yeah, that was a consensus on this podcast. Why was Rosie in the bottom six? Why was he on the fourth line? He should have been on the top line. But since we're speaking about lines, like my last memory, Clark, of you as a Leaf, it was you, Kuhlman, and Grabowski, man. You guys were outstanding. In fact, I was even Googling you yesterday just to find out more information. And there was like a Reddit thread that was started like the other day talking about the most underrated lines period in NHL history. And you guys were talked about. What was it like to play with those two?
That first year was great, but it was like, you know, some years you can't miss. Like, I mean, they scored every goal we had chances on. We had a good chemistry, and yeah, it was. I always say to people like, "Oh, the NHL must have been so fun." Like, out of the 10 or 12 years, like if you're a journeyman or middle of the road guy, Rosie knows too. Like, it's not that fun. Like, you're grinding for your life all the time. So like, when you do have a good year, God, it was fun. Like, because I had about 10 years where you're just like up and down, like, you know, like you're at Disney World. So it's yeah, I had a good year in Ottawa too, where things, you know, there's only a couple of years of the whole thing where you're, you know, I can't imagine being a top player where you just show up every year and you're just like, oh, I'm gonna have a year, no one's gonna say anything to me, I'm doing what I want. Must be amazing for them. Must have been a great league.
Yeah, it makes you appreciate those days where things are clicking. Like my experience with that is far beyond yours, even more so. But I remember some time, and you know, whether mostly in the minors though, you get on a line and like the coach is just starting you every game and putting you out there and roll you out there, and everything's going right and you're just clicking and it's fun. It's like, my God, if I could do this for years on end, like some guys seem to be able to do, how fun.
Imagine Gretzky, imagine Wayne every year. I mean, he just can't wait to get there. Like, hey, I don't know what I'm, you know, getting 200 points. I'm gonna win the cup. I'm gonna, you know, like. He told me he said a
helmet
funny
on at practice, doesn't even show up to practice, does whatever he wants.
Yeah, he's just too good for the game, right? Must be nice. He told me his last year, his dad, I got a million stories. He told me a story. He goes, his dad's like, play another year in New York. You know, he's like, I had 9 goals this year. I think he had like still a point a game, like whatever. But he's like, I used to have. That was a bad weekend in Edmonton, 8 goals. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm done. I don't want to play. You know, it's just hilarious how guys think. I'd take 9.
Yeah, I did some background digging again. One of your former teammates in Colby Armstrong for
Yeah.
maybe a couple of things. He was telling me that you puked a lot before the game. Was that just
Oh
Colby being Colby, or like
no,
was that real?
no, yeah, I did it a lot. I'd like get so jammed up before games. Like I don't know, it was the weirdest thing ever. I'd just like go out for my first shift, come off, and like puke. Like everyone knew when I got off that first shift. Like my line mates, like, "Are you kidding? Like, grow up, you pansy." You know, like, and I was just like you can look as good as you want on the surface and smile, whatever. But I was like anxious. You know, the day of the games for me were hard some days. You know, like I just after the morning skate, like start getting, you know, tightening up. I'm just like, God, I just want to relax, and you just can't. You know.
Are you ever preaching to the choir, man? From the second my alarm went off after pregame nap, putting my suit on, driving to the rink. I remember like I put a heart rate monitor on one time when we were just kicking the ball around doing soccer, and I went to Belza, our trainer, and I was like, my heart rate's like 135 right now, just wired
Just
and
hanging out.
oh fuck, and like
Yeah.
my pregame nap would or pregame meal would just sit in my throat, my
Oh,
legs would squeeze, and I'm like, God, and then as soon as the puck dropped, it was fine. And then after the game, I'm like, oh my God, what do you get so tight for? That was easy. Everything went great. We got a game tomorrow. Let's do it. Wake up in the morning, exact same
sick.
shit.
It can be, you know, we're complaining about really good things in life, but it's a thing though. Like in every sport I see guys all the time, like these great athletes, and you're like, oh, what's going on? You know something's going on upstairs, like in their own life, like they're mentally, they're stressed, they're this, that. I mean, look at if you're not mentally strong now, like at least back in the day, I'm saying back in the day, like I'm 65 years old,
I
but
know.
when you know the social media now, like you can't get away from it now. Like you're gonna get. I mean, it's just everywhere, and that's why everyone makes way more money. And everyone wants to be a part of it, right? And that's a great thing, but you better be ready to handle like, you know, you go to work, you go to a regular job. Um, you have a bad day there, so be it, right? You have a bad day at ours, like you open the paper and have your coffee and you got your kids there, and like, oh, Clark stinks and this, you know, it's like it can be hard to handle. You
Well,
know?
that's the thing about Toronto too, right? We talk, I don't know if you've seen, but Ryan O'Reilly's taking a lot of heat by some people because he didn't like the spotlight in Toronto. He chose to go to Nashville, more of a chiller market, if you will, and he's taken some heat for that. But you're both guys who lived it. You were Toronto Maple Leafs. Clark, can you speak to that, just being a Leaf and just the everyday pressure of being a Maple Leaf?
Yeah, it's tough because the organization, the city, the fan, like it's so fun there, and it's so like everyone wants to, you know, get them through the goal line, and it's like, you know, when was the last time they won? The like late 60s, right? It was
67. Yeah.
yeah, like they're to have the money they have and the opportunities and the luxury of, I mean, anything you want there, like Rose, you know, you get anything you want there, you know, and it's why haven't they won? It's, I mean, they're feeling the pressure. They're this, that. It's hard. I don't know what it is, you know. And they could win next year and win 4 in a row, and then everyone, you know what I mean. So I mean, who knows? I don't know. What do I know?
It's a
Yeah,
beast all itself. I don't know. I don't have a ton of experience with other organizations, but I was in a few of them, and it's just a different beast, man. It's like the greatest, franchise in the world for some reason, and on the other hand, sometimes it's like a nightmare for some. Like it's just it's
yeah,
this double-sided coin, and it's just because it's so big and there's so much passion behind it, and I think it just it gets very difficult to get the fucking job done. Obviously,
yeah. And it's, I feel bad for anyone who doesn't get to go there. It's like you're a Yankee, you're a New York Yankee of
Yeah.
National Hockey League, kind of. Like I'm so glad that I got to do the 3 years just to see that show, because you go organize. I was in Buffalo before that. And it was like Galsano, and it was like he's a business guy, and it's just a different thing. Like Toronto, like what do you want? Whatever will get this done tonight, get us a win, we'll get you. I'm like, whatever the sticks, the skates, we just still couldn't. You know, we tried.
How much do you miss the media?
And I depends if I had 2 goals the night before, I miss them.
yeah.
You know,
Like I was thinking yesterday, because Phil Kessel did his cup party in Toronto. He's
thanks for
done
the
2
invite,
here.
Phil. You listen to this too. Sick,
Yeah.
buddy.
Yeah, no, exactly. And all I could think about was Simmons and the hot dogs, right? It's like, I'm a media member and I've been a media member for 12 years, but I understand it from the player's perspective, being friends with a lot of players. Like humanizing the situation is so important for me, even as somebody as a media member. And sometimes, like, especially in that era, man, like there were some stories I got out there.
Oh, for sure. And throughout the years, like I liked 90% of the media. Like I had good relationships with guys in Ottawa, Toronto. You know, like there's a bunch of good guys and they're around the game, and you feed that, you can give them more because you respect them and you want them to get the story out, whatever. But you know, there's always, everyone can't do the good story, right? So then you got the guys in the room and you know who they are, and you're like, it is his job to find the other side. Like you can't just hear how great everyone is every day. Like we want, like people want, and who wants to hear that? People love the dirt. They love to see guys' lives get shattered. Like they do. Like who does it? Like there's like you're having a bad day, you see that, you're like, yes, there's someone else. There's someone else getting it too. You know, and that's just the way it goes.
Human nature. Well, Clarky, we know you got a tea time to get to. We appreciate your time, man. Thanks for coming to visit. Hopefully we do it again sometime. But good to catch up with you, man. It's good to hear you're doing so good, man. It's good chat.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me. Rosie, miss you, brother. Miss throwing the pads on together.
Yeah, buddy. If I'm ever down in Florida, I'll just walk
me
on
up.
the Grove, obviously.
Yeah, you got open invites, boys. Come over to the Grove and the Slaughterhouse 23, and that's what they call it.
Exactly. Just set up for MJ, hey?
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. Well, thanks again, man. Good catching up with you.
Okay, boys. Take care.